As her Alzheimer's got worse, my tia Chani retreated behind her apartment locked doors, white curtains, disconnected her phone, and sold her car. To keep out the thieves, she said, by which she likely meant us, her family. Most of us only visited because we were vultures waiting to inherit her things. When we talked amongst ourselves, it was about what she owned. Paintings with her cajon, sculptures by dead artists, and jewelry from dictator Trujillo's nephew who had bought it to chain her. For some reason, she listened to me, and so the relatives pushed me forward like an offering. For whatever reason, my name she remembered. I have had 3 great-grandparents that have suffered from Alzheimer's. 2 of them were Hispanic. The Alzheimer's Association explains that Hispanics are 1.5 times more likely than whites to have Alzheimer's, and this is due to the lack of research. As many of them are not willing to go do the research, it fears that they will be used with again like they are within the workforce. Finding good care for family members that suffer from Alzheimer's exacerbates the social and economic struggle that these Latino families face. It is another reason why many of them can't do the research, is they simply don't have the time. A short story from Brenda Panoli's Rock Eaters. Because the Los Abuelos are already battling their minds, they shouldn't have to battle a translator. The Great Escape. She kept forgetting where she put her keys, changing the locks, then finding the originals. She added a gate on the front door, joints on the windows, and a grate over the metal trash chutes. Despite what anybody else said, I liked the old chica. Finally, she lost the keys for good. She had set them down the trash chute, and by the time she told anybody, trash day had come and gone. We wasted a few days trying to convince her that they were going to turn up and that she likely needed a locksmith. The relatives also decided that it was time. They tried to get her classified as mentally unfit so they could do what they wish with her and her things. I was against it. I begged her to come out. She said, "This apartment is like a seashell. I compare the sea. I saw the revolution flood these streets 50 years ago. Now there's cars that won't stop for me, and everybody who cares about me is right here." But there was no one inside with her. "Please come out, for me. I don't want to be a burden to anyone," she said. I told her that I had a dress for her on the other side. I said, "Would you like to see all those people watch you walk in looking better than ever?" She said, "That's all I've ever seen. You're the one walking down the aisle. Please, I won't ask you for anything else." She smiled, cocked her head, and said, "I'm so glad that we have this friendship and that the young are happy. But my wedding day was the saddest day of my life." She didn't come out. I didn't visit for a while. First it was the honeymoon, the pregnancy, the house, then kids. I still talked with her over the phone, and she would tell me these grand stories about all these people who have passed. But when she asked me when they were coming by to visit, I would tell her, "They're on a long vacation." More and more she was calling me by my mother's name. But then the baby started crying, or the toddler had hit her head on the table, and I forgot who I was for a while, besides a nagging wife and a resentful mother. I wondered if I would end up as alone as my tia. She grew skinny, her hair paling to bone white, her skin sagging off her skull in delicate fold from being a mirror for others' desires. She grew so weak. One morning, I found her passed out by the gate, and I felt guilt hanging over me for letting her pass alone. But when I reached my hand through the gate, her eyes opened. She said my name for the first time in months, but then said, "I must have drank too much with my friends last night." And then she was back to being in the 1960s. That night, I went home and I packed a bag, and I slept on the outermost cushions of the iron gate. My husband would try keys on the locks when she wasn't looking. "You're not helping," I would tell him. "She's only ever going to come out on her own volition." He said, "I know you feel like you have to do this, and I am ready for you to return to you whatever you are. You don't need this. Come home." I pushed him away. I had married, I had borne the children, I had been diligent. What would I be at the end of my life? My Tia had no one. "It's only for a little while," I told my husband. More and more, I felt myself becoming older, tired, and stiff from sleeping on the floor. Well, my aunt remembered herself, younger and younger. When the relatives saw the bags under my eyes, they would say, "That crone sure is taking ages to die." They likely meant it to hurt me, but I was ready for her death too. Finally, I called her from her gate, and I did hear an answer. I thought she'd passed out on the toilet. It had happened before. So all I could do was wait, and I kept calling her name. When I was sure she couldn't hear me, I called a locksmith. They told me that it would take days to get in. When the relatives heard this, they all came to like the passings of royalty. And while they were cutting the gates, I couldn't figure out if I should feel happy or sad for my Tia. Finally, when they cut the bars open, the mob of relatives pushed through, trying to pocket whatever they could moments before I came rushing in. I heard a gasp. There was nothing in the kitchen, nothing in the living room, nothing in the bedrooms, nothing in the apartment of all the riches that I had convinced myself that I didn't want. Until that moment. The theory was that she'd spent all those years breaking the fragiles, tearing the paintings, and breaking the pieces of gold into small enough pieces to fit over the trash chute. But then they couldn't even explain that Tia Channy was gone. Not even a smell of rot anywhere to suggest a body. She wouldn't leave us her bones as relics. The more spiteful relatives theorized that she had keys the whole time, and while I had been asleep, she snuck out. This I didn't believe. As I started to collect my things from where I had camped out for so long, I went into the middle of the living room and I laid down, saying my Tia's name over and over. Nothing but my own voice curled back at me. Finally, I let down my hair. I lay down, my skin tingling from the cool polish of the stone. I felt alive. I felt wild. For the first time, there was no one but me.